Lakiana. I'm one of the co-chairs of PCCEP. Let's have our other PCCEP steering committee members introduce themselves, and then any other PCCEP members on the committee as well that want to introduce themselves.
I'm Elliot Young. I'm the other co-chair.
And I'm Ann Campbell, the alternate co-chair.
Vadim Mazursky, secretary.
Amy, you there?
Yes. Amy Anderson, Behavioral Health Subcommittee Chair.
Okay, PCCEP staff, quick introductions.
Hi, everyone. I am Claudia Claudio. I am the PCCEP project assistant.
Hello, everyone. My name is Theo Lada. I'm another PCCEP staff member. My internet is also kind of spotty because of the wind, so you have to excuse it. I may be going.
Cool. Thank you all for being here. So we got a number of things to discuss tonight. A statement on PCCEP, on the upcoming protest or on the ongoing protests, a codification process, and then also our upcoming meeting. And then we have a meeting with the mayor that we wanted to go over. And then I think that's it. But we're going to start. Do we want to start with the statement? I didn't realize we were discussing it tonight, but we could start with that, Elliot, or we can start with the
Let's start with the idea of the forum and decide that, and then we can move on to whatever. So after our impromptu meeting last week, like immediately after, Nicole Grant got in touch with me and said that, let me catch everyone up to date. There was an idea that perhaps we would have a forum with the mayor. Then in the meantime, the governor said that she was interested in having a forum with the mayor. So then we reached out and said, maybe this would be redundant. The mayor's office said, perhaps you could do it together. Turns out that the governor's forum is structured in a different way. It's sort of with Black leaders and specific communities. So the mayor's office asked us, said the mayor would be willing to have a forum with us in the community. So that's where it stands. We had a kind of lengthy conversations about the pluses and minuses of that. In the meantime, we're going to be talking about a meeting that is being set up for September 14th with the mayor and PCCEP, just the mayor and PCCEP, not sort of broader community members. So this question of a forum would be in addition to. I don't think we have to have a long conversation about this. I think we could have a short conversation and then just vote, see where people are, you know, and then move on. So does anyone have any thoughts on this?
What was the date that he wanted? You sent out a date, wasn't it?
It was going to be, he's got dates on the 14th and the 22nd. The 14th we've grabbed for the PCCEP meeting. So okay. It's possible the 22nd is our board meeting. So that's not a good date for us. So we would just have to, you know, find a date, but it would be later in September.
Okay.
Don't we have the retreat on Tuesday, the 15th?
Yeah.
So if we have the retreat on the 15th, why would you book anything for the 14th? That's a lot of PCCEP meetings that week.
He's talking about the forum. The mayor's meeting is on the 14th because that's the only date he has. He has either, I don't know which one you're referring to.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get figured out.
The mayor meeting, so they gave us two dates, the 14th and the 22nd. And Lakiana thought, and I agreed, that we should jump on the 14th because there are a lot of issues which we want to discuss at the retreat that would be good to sort of have his input on before we met on the retreat.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. If it's the mayor's meeting, yes. I didn't know if you were trying to throw in another town hall event. No. Okay, good. All right. Thanks.
Okay, other clarifying questions or comments before we just vote?
Are we voting for the meeting with the mayor? I'm
Yeah, the mayor's meeting is happening on the 14th.
okay, okay.
That's happening because we all said we wanted that, and
Yes.
we've.
Yeah.
And the only thing to be decided on that is just how many people are coming, what that's about. But what we're voting on right now or discussing right now is the idea of hosting some kind of public listening session at a to be determined date.
That's what I thought you were talking about, and I think we need to stop that and get our business done first.
That's what we're voting on right now.
Okay, so why don't we just go around and vote? Amy votes stop it.
No, stop
Okay, no.
trying to do another.
Real quick, did you want to give time for community to weigh in on any piece of that or not? Just
Sure, that's a good idea. I overlooked that. So community members, do you have any thoughts or comments on whether to have a town hall, whether it would be important to have a town hall with the mayor in the near future? I don't see any hands being raised.
Barb wants to say something. Hold on. Just speak.
Here's my raised hand. What I want to say is, if the mayor gave you guys the 14th, why do you think he's going to give you the 22nd also?
No, it's choice.
Right. So I thought you guys were going to have a small meeting with him on the 14th.
And plan
And you
another
think
meeting
he's
in the
coming
future.
on the 22nd?
No.
Also, that's what's confusing me. Does that make sense? For
Okay.
that
Yeah,
confusing?
no, he gave two possible dates for this PCCEP meeting with the mayor, the 14th and the 22nd. So the 22nd is out for us because we have a board meeting. So what
Right.
we're talking about is not the 22nd. We're talking about it at some future time.
So what you're saying is the mayor will do the presentation on the 14th and then another listening session with the mayor? I'm sorry if I'm confused.
Yeah, he's going to do a PCCEP meeting on the 14th. Okay. And
Not
then
even a meeting, just a special session. It's closed to the public. Just PCCEP meeting with him, like, hey, let's just talk, let's catch up, kind of a thing.
Okay, and then we're voting on another public one with him as a listening session with the public?
yeah,
That he hasn't committed to at all.
he's committed to, he wants to do it, but we don't have a date for it.
Okay.
So
That was my public comment.
Can I ask just, oh, sorry,
ahead.
Barb.
No, it's all good.
On the meeting on the 14th, are we going to vote? I would like everybody to be able to go to that.
Yeah, well, let's put a pin in that and
Okay.
make this decision first.
Okay.
Okay, so Amy, our other community members, Elizabeth O says she leaves it to our discretion. I don't see any other community people wanting to weigh in, so let's just go around. Anne,
I'm in.
Lacayana,
I vote no.
Vadim?
I vote no.
Okay, I would vote yes, but that's 3 no's, so we will not do that, and I'll communicate with the mayor's office. The next question would be about the special meeting with the mayor. So the issue is, as Lacana said, who we want to include in that, and then do we want to leave it open for everybody? And if so, do we want to limit the people who will be asking questions just to make that meeting more efficient? So
Yeah, so I can give a little context to the meeting. So basically, PCCEP has the opportunity to meet with, I mean, we can call a meeting with whoever we want, but I mean, obviously the relationship with the mayor is going to be very important to us. And so we felt it would be helpful to meet with him. And Nicole has got us a time of an hour blocked out, which is a really good chunk of time to dive into some issues. And we decided to do it privately because it allows for more candid conversations rather than like a public forum where it could just be a bunch of folks just shouting and getting off their, soapboxes and whatnot. So for the meeting, it's going to be next to Monday, the 14th, from 3:30 to 4:30. And the way we broke it out was we want to save some space to talk about three things: the protests and just how we're feeling about that, and hearing from him and giving our points of things, talking about codification, which is what we're going to be talking about next here and having our retreat on. And then the third thing is the patrol recommendation that the mayor had made and asked PCCEP to have a hand in. Like, we've never talked to him about that. So we would split it up about 30 minutes for each of those things. Traditionally, in the past, when we have met with the mayor, it's been the chairs. You know, before COVID, me and Andrew met with him. And then just depending on the context of things. But we know other folks also want to be in on that. And there's no problem with having, if we had the entire PCCEP committee, we could have that. PCCEP is entitled to private meetings when and where they choose, with or without quorum. So that's not the issue. The issue is just, do we want to have it open to everybody? And then if so, we would probably want to have designated speakers, so it's not just everybody weighing in on everything. So those are the pieces that we're talking about right now. Do we want to open it up to everybody? Everybody might not even want to come, probably can't all come. So just thoughts on that.
Well, I'm glad that we're having the meeting. I understand if it's only an hour, I don't think we could, everyone couldn't speak probably. I get that part, but I would like everyone to be able to be there if they're able to.
But if we have a chance to speak to the mayor one-on-one with PCCEP, I think we need to do that as a group. I think we haven't done it. We've always just included everybody, which is great. But I think people can write in suggestions, ideas. They can go to our website. There's lots of things the public can do. But I think before the elections of a new mayor, I think PCCEP ought to have a meeting with the mayor. You know what I mean? It's more of a logistics thing because we're coming into the close of a cycle for PCCEP, you know, because of all the things going on with change and maybe mayor and everything. We need to have this private one-on-one. I think we owe it to ourselves to have these discussions without worrying about people taking up an hour talking.
No,
Yeah,
but that's not, yeah, this isn't going to be a public meeting. So the question is just, Amy, whether all PCCEP members are invited or a subset. What do you think is?
All PCCEPs get the invitation, and those of us who can come, we'll be there.
Okay.
I think that's only right. That all the PCCEP members be included.
Oh, goody.
I don't have any input on this. I might be out of town on Monday, so I think an hour, I agree with both sides, but I think an hour might be enough to have any PCCEP member that wants to come be present there.
Okay, we also have Jared in the chat box asking if he could come as a silent observer. What do people feel about that? I think it's fine. You know, the DOJ has sort of been present and at all of our public meetings and is sort of central to this process. I think, you know, maybe not having them take up time weighing in would be helpful just to give PCCEP more time. But are the people opposed to the idea of DOJ, Jared being there?
I'm not.
No,
you know, he's
I'm
been
good.
observing
He
this,
could be
yeah.
a good buffer. I don't have a problem.
I'm just curious, Jared, your thoughts of wanting to be there. How do you think it could support your work? Just your thought process behind it.
Yeah, it's in my role as monitor. I would not want to opine on any back and forth, as Elliot mentioned, or take up any time for any presentation, but just to understand the mayor's interaction with you guys and how he's interacting, and then what he says and what he does. The city has obligations to support PCCEP, and that's what I would be. We've taken the position we're not here to monitor your guys' work and what you decide to do, but it is my job to monitor what the city does and how the city supports you, and you're a creature of the mayor's office at the moment, and that's why. So I don't have to rely on hearsay later if there's a dispute about it. I will have firsthand heard what's said and promised or not promised.
Do you think it'll have any impact on him and what he may or may not say?
That'd be, I can only speculate. I can't speak for him, but I assume that his behavior, it might change if the Department of Justice was in the room, and that may be a reason for me to sit out and maybe a reason for me to be there. That's for you guys to think about.
I would imagine that it would change, and I would suggest that we not respectfully have you there, just because of, I mean, there's a very contentious relationship, not necessarily a bad way, but there's just a very strong one there, right, between the settlement agreement and the city. So I think that it would have a very big impact on what may or may not said, and that's the whole reason we're having it privately in the first place.
I guess I'm not understanding, but that's fine. I mean, I don't need to be invited by PCCEP. If I feel like it's necessary for me to be there, I can tell the city I need to be there. I don't want to do that if you guys don't want me there, so I guess that's more of the reason.
It's not that we don't want you there, but if there could be a perfect level, you could be a silent observer without influencing the meeting. But if, I mean, obviously the mayor's going to know you're there. So it's going to, I mean, the point of us having this meeting is to try and have candid dialogue without, you know, outside people being a part of it. Otherwise we just have it public. So I'm just.
Well, one argument for having Jared present is that even though this isn't a public, it's not, I assume it's not going to be a recorded meeting. I think that in the sense of if we do get commitments to certain things, having a representative from the DOJ there, I think would help in terms of follow through. If we have such a meeting, and then as we see with our own meetings, there are like 50 different versions of what happened, having someone who's charged, whose job is to sort of watch over the city in terms of the settlement agreement, I think it could be helpful for us.
Yeah, and I agree with Elliot. I think it's helpful to have that chronological view of things, but also, you know, Jared's been available to us and really instigated the whole reason why PCCEP is around. So I think it's important to have, you know, individuals like that present to understand the interactions between the city and PCCEP and the future of PCCEP and what all that involves, if that's what we're discussing.
Anne, Amy, do you have thoughts?
Well, I mean, I see both sides, and I tend to agree with Lakiana. I hope that we can have a real meaningful discussion with the mayor. That I'm wondering if he will be as candid with Jared there. No offense, Jared.
But
it's
I think
what Jared personally, it's not about, the thing is not about Jared personally, it's about the fact of the position that he holds. So it's like, it has really nothing to do with Jared, the great news that he is. But if anytime you have someone who's a party into the thing that you're trying to finish up is in that room, you are going to get, it would be like talking with the police chief and having the PPA president present in there.
Well, do you see what Rochelle Silver says? Consider inviting the community of silent observers also. You know, I mean, that idea of a silent observer issue, I mean, I think back to the idea of just a meeting with the mayor is.
What Jared said earlier is that he, of course, could go to the city and ask to be invited by the city, and my guess is they probably would invite him. So I guess the question is more not whether Jared will be there, but whether Jared will be there at our invitation.
Well, no, I think that's also open to interpretation. If we said we would ask Jared not to be there, I would assume that Jared, I mean, unless you want to just go and ask him
not to be there.
And I think whatever you decide, I would hope that it will be respected by.
I think PPB and the mayor for sure.
By Jared. And again, it's not anything personal for Jared. It's just about we wanted this meeting and an opportunity to have a candid conversation and talk about things. So that's just my point on it.
Lakiana, I want to throw some out. From what if I hear you right, okay, and let me see if I get. You're referencing his position as DOJ, the agency that started all this. Is that what you're trying to reference? When you say that the position might have questionable, take on this? You think the mayor actually really cares that he's with the DOJ?
Yes, absolutely. The Department of Justice is overseeing the settlement agreement. How could of course it is impactful.
Yeah, but it's already been agreed upon. Everything is in agreement.
It's not settled though. It's a live settlement. They have not completed it.
Well, actually they have, but.
Well, except for the PCCEP part, and
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about is the PCCEP
insubstantial
part.
compliance for a year, which they're not finished with.
Okay, so Amy, do you have a thought on whether we want to include Jared or not?
I just wanted to see if Lakiana really felt that the mayor would give us different answers if he wasn't in the room.
Jared just said yes, he would. Jared just said he would. That he said.
Then we have to do what's best for PCCEP.
Where did Jared say that?
Jared, can you just clarify that you said that's what you said?
I think having the Department of Justice in the room can make people more careful. You might have a lawyer there as well with him if I'm there. I think it could very well change the tone. I don't need to be there. Absolutely. I don't want to make this like a critical issue, but the city does have obligation. I'm going to be in less of a position to hold the city to whatever comes out of this meeting if I'm not there personally. I can't monitor through a bunch of hearsay if it's, you promised this and you didn't. But, it's really a small issue. So I don't want to cause discord. I don't think I would go to the city and demand to be invited if PCCEP didn't want me there. I am sensitive to Dr. Silver's comment that, why does DOJ get to be a silent observer if the community doesn't? I don't want to, elevate. We are at the tail end of the agreement, but it's still live. Like Lakiana said, there, decisions about January have not been made by the Department of Justice yet, and things are still in flux and dynamic, and things can change. So all of that's to say, I think there is logically there's a risk that people would behave differently. I definitely don't need to be there as a make or break thing. I would like to be there. There are alternatives if you record the meeting or, but I'm sure that would have the same problem of candid conversation. So, I don't want to, just like I don't need to be at your retreats, I don't need to be at every meeting that you guys have. I haven't seen you guys meet with the mayor before. So that was the reason primarily for my written request in the chat.
Okay, so let's decide this. It seems like Vadim and I are yes. Lakiana and Ann, if I read you right, you're a no. And Amy, I'm not sure where you are.
I'm totally good. I'm good with yes or no. I'm good either way.
Thanks for breaking the tie.
I want to do what's best for the group. I'll vote yes to be best for the group, but if the group says no, then I'm going to go with the group.
Well, we're divided. We're two to two. Maybe we could ask what the community thinks, and that might help guide our thoughts. Any thoughts from the community? Rochelle, would you like to opine? Since
I just would say that I'm opposed to secrecy, and that Jared should be allowed there, and you should allow community members to observe also.
Okay. So a sort of equal treatment would require that. Barbara?
Portland Cop Watch is usually against secret meetings. In fact, that's kind of a thing. On the one hand, I understand the issue of wanting to have him, him be maybe more candid. I'm not sure if you could get more information or something, but generally, You know, I mean, I don't know. I just know that Cop Watch is generally against private meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of the forum was going to be a public meeting, but that seemed to be, that was nixed because, you know, we didn't have consensus about it. So, Lockiana, what do you want to do about this? Should we?
Can I clear one thing up for?
Yeah.
Just real quick,
Go ahead, speak. The mic's on.
And I see that Susan's hand is raised too.
Rainish has a question or?
Yeah, but Theo was just speaking. Hang on, Theo was speaking, so let's go with him and then.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to be clear that this isn't a secret meeting. PCEP is charged with meeting with the mayor's office, among many other offices. The PCEP hasn't met with the mayor's office before privately. The mayor has been at some of the PCEP meetings, but they haven't met with the mayor privately. But the PCEP can meet with the Office of Equity and Human Rights, the Office of Civic Life, the mayor's office. They can request meetings with whoever, but it's in the PCEP plan for the PCEP to meet with these specific offices, including the mayor's office, regardless of who the mayor is. Also, I want.
Okay. Before I see that Susan has her hand up, I got to take off. So, Lockiana, I'm going to leave it to you. You know where my vote is. I'm happy with whatever you all decide is the best way to proceed.
We actually voted for Jared to be in the meeting, just to be clear.
Yeah. And I put the metrics, my edits on the metrics document in the chat. So if you get to that and want to look at that, that's there. Sorry.
Did you get my edits on the metrics?
I saw it at one point, and then when I went back to it, I don't know if someone else got in there, but you could see if it's included, like with those Google shared docs. It's not clear.
Cool. Thank
you. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, so yep, so we're getting some comments. Amy, you voted in favor of yes? Yep, okay, cool. We're gonna go with that.
Yes.
So we don't deliberate forever on it. And yeah, just to clarify Theo's point, it's not a secret meeting. It's something that is, as we're talking right now, we're letting the public know. But it's helpful for us to have occasionally smaller group meetings. We're doing a retreat next Tuesday, and that will also be private. So, and we always announce, and we always also report back. So there is a little bit of trust, obviously, that we're going to report back everything that's been said. But we've done so in the past, and it's important to do. We've met with the mayor privately before, and it's been very helpful just to have discussions, figure things out, and go from there. I would say probably 98-99% of our meetings though are public meetings. None of them though are secret. So that is that. Let's see what's next on our agenda. Crafting a statement against violence at Portland protests. I'm going to defer that right now. I think that was Elliot's thing, and I don't have.
No, that was my thing.
Oh, that was yours. Okay, cool. Then let's go ahead with it.
Okay, so to give context, I think we've touched upon this before, but for people who haven't heard, there's been a concerted effort amongst many Portlanders to address the issues of systemic racism, police reform, and most of those have been very peaceful, and I think are certainly being heard by our politicians and being responded to. And then every once in a while, there has been, violence against individuals, violence against groups of people, and also damage to personal property, whether it be businesses, city property, county property. Obviously, there's been a death that has resulted as part of that. Many politicians, many civic rights leaders, many organizations have stood up and said, enough is enough. If we want to seek peace, if we want to be treated with peace, if we want to be treated with kindness and compassion, we must likewise be peaceful and have condemned violence in the streets. And I think PCEP needs to have a statement similar along those lines. You know, PCEP certainly represents the voices in the streets, the people that are calling for change, the people that want police reform. And I think that there's more than just the people in the streets. I think the people that are, you know, being damaged in their businesses, being damaged in their livelihoods, and certainly the people that have been out in the streets that have been hurt, sometimes just as by passing, need also to be respected. You know, my mind goes back to when I witnessed an elderly woman who was asking the protesters not to throw paint at a building, and she got hit by paint. You know, there's been lots of incidents along those lines. And so I think for us to be relevant as PCEP, we need to condemn the systemic racism, and we need to help the police bureau reform, whether in Portland or anywhere else, and uphold people who are calling for that. But I think we also need to stand up for the greater Portland community that is being, you know, damaged not only by the coronavirus every day and dying because of the coronavirus every day, but also by, honestly, people who may be opportunists that are there to cause mayhem and to cause harm, even to people who support the cause. I think over 100 different entities in Portland, politicians, as I said, civic rights leaders, organizations have stood up, you know, to this and have voiced their concerns about what's going on. And I think in order for us to find peace and for us to like bridge the gap between the community, between the police who are a part of the community, between the city and the people who are protesting the streets, we have the need to also call for peace. And so I'd like to, in our next meeting, draft a statement that addresses the legitimacy of the concerns for people who are calling for racial justice and police reform, but also stating that for us to ask other people to have an ethical code of conduct with respect to whether it be protesters or Black individuals or Latinx individuals or just any people in general, we have to also have that same code of ethics. You know, do not harm others. Violence only begets violence, and love begets love. And I think it's time for us to speak out. We've spoken out against police actions, rightfully so, but we must also speak out against the opportunism of people who are causing damage to neighborhoods, causing damage to the downtown area, causing damage throughout Portland, but also hurting people. And we've all seen it before, people getting kicked in the heads, people getting hit by baseball bats, people getting hit by hammers. These are not the people that represent, I think, the Black Lives Matter movement or the various movements that have been out there every day protesting. And I think those people are asking the same thing that I'm asking right now, which is let's band together and call it for what it is. You know, violence is not something that we should condone in any form.
Thank you, Vadim. Are you asking for feedback now? Because obviously a statement hasn't been read. I mean, it hasn't been written.
Right.
Right. So I think what would be best if you wrote something and then we voted on it at the September meeting, or how do you think would be best?
That's exactly what I wanted to do, is to kind of have this as an open arena, talk about it, because there's been some emails that go back and forth with people on both sides in PCEP, whether that's pros or cons. So I wanted to have like a public discourse about it. And then yes, for the next September PCEP meeting too, I'll draft a statement, brief statement, you know, acknowledging the movement that is tangible, but also acknowledging the need for peace.
I think it'd be too much if we go through it right now and go through the details, but what I would like is to provide, and maybe this is where you were going, one PCEP member feedback and then one public member feedback, to just feedback from what you've already said to craft your letter so that when it gets to September meeting that it's like in the best position that it can be in. So I don't know if Ann, if you had a clarifying question or if you wanted to provide that PCEP.
Yeah,
feedback.
I have a question and a comment real quickly. I'm trying to understand, we want the comment would be about peace in our community. I'm a little unclear about the comment, and I just, when you're talking, I'm just thinking, you know, I would be okay with something like that. I'm not totally understanding what it is when Black and brown people have the same rights as I do.
There's no reason to
clear.
equivocate who has equal rights or not, and I mean that's not what I'm saying. You know,
I'm
I'm sure.
what you're saying.
Right, and so I'll explain. I'm sure you've read the statement from the governor, signed on by numerous individuals, including Senator Frederick Liu, but also saying something along the lines of like, for months this summer, we have seen powerful images of Oregonians uniting for the cause of racial justice, calling for justice for Black men and women who have been killed by police violence. We remember them, we say their names: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Philando Castile, Elton Sterling, and far too many other Black lives taken by racist violence. For weeks, we've also seen small groups of demonstrators from all ends of the political spectrum who are intent on committing acts of vandalism and violence. Tragically, yesterday a life was lost in downtown Portland. We do not yet know the full circumstances of the person's death. Regardless, you know, it goes on and on, but things along those lines. And there was an earlier statement made by the governor, once again signed on by hundreds of individuals and groups, saying we condemn violence, and that's all I'm asking is to condemn the violence that's happening in the streets. I don't mean to say, you know, people stand on comparing Black, brown, white people or anything along those lines, just condemning violence. I think if we don't condemn violence in any group, how do we condemn violence from a particular group, you know?
Some people, I think, would think that the Portland Police Bureau is committing violence on people too. So I guess I'll just wait to write it and see.
No, that's what I want to hear. I mean, do you think it's okay for people to be violent against the Portland Police Bureau?
I said, I think that the Portland Police Bureau has been violent against protesters and citizens.
And I understand the police, and we've spoken out against that, and we've issued a statement, but do you think it's okay for people to throw 10-pound rocks at police?
I think that I'd like to see what you're.
It's an easy question, yes or no. I mean, do you think it's okay for people to throw 10-pound rocks at police and shine laser beams in people's eyes?
Without context, no, but I'll give you a really quick example. If it's okay for the United States to invade Afghanistan for September 11th, I think it's okay for Black people to be violent after what they've endured in this country. Do I think that they should go do that? No, but do it. Based off how Black people have been treated in this country, could you blame them for being, and it's not even them being violent, right? Most of the protesters are white people, but the idea that like everybody should be peaceful, Black people have been peaceful for this whole time in this country, and we've experienced violence. So the idea that you cannot blame any Black person for any violent act that they would commit based off of slavery, terrorism that they've experienced. The United States acts out in violence all the time for things far less. Like I said, they invaded like 4 countries after September 11th, and that was justified based off 3,000 people dying. At least 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, maybe 10,000 Black people have been lynched in this country. Untold numbers have been killed by police, an entire group of them enslaved. So for them to be violent, I don't think you would blame them, but are they being violent? No, and I think that speaks to the character of us. So I think it just gotta be.
And I'm in complete agreement with you. I think that does speak to the character. I think the Black Lives Movement that I've seen out there has been peaceful. I think most of the protesters that I've seen out there who are out there fighting for change have been peaceful. But there's no doubt that something happens at around 11 p.m. And as you said, from what I've seen, both in person as well as on TV, it's not Black people doing this. But at some point in time, you know, we can't. People have said that the message is being hijacked, you know, that the Black Lives Matter movement is being hijacked. People have blamed it on far right extremists, far left extremists, whatever it is. But we're sitting here talking about, you know, whether somebody should get hit by a rock in the street, you know, which I think takes away from what people are actually trying to do out there. And, you know, do I think that people should be angry about things that have happened out there? For sure. If I was, when I witnessed what happened to George Floyd, I was angry. When there's, you know, stuff like that, since then there's been shootings, and it's angry that why don't people do something different, you know? there's anger, and there's palpable anger. And if I had to deal with that in my own life, I can't imagine what it is for people like that who are dealing with it. At the same time, if we are to believe in the words of MLK, Gandhi, all these people before us, we have to strive to be better than that, and I think that, that's where I'm going here is not to demean any movement or not to demean any anger that might be out there, but are those people really helping? And if not, why not stand up and say, we want peace from everywhere. We want to stand up for the good police officers that are out there who are staying up at night because, whatever, they don't want a neighborhood to burn down in flames. There are people too, I know that's not a politically correct thing to say, but, there are good people out there that are getting hurt. There are people certainly, in the public that have gotten hurt and killed. And that's where I'm coming from.
Can we get one public comment? Looks like Barbara has her hand up, and then let's wrap this up so that we don't go into it too far, especially without a statement written. But I think there's some good feedback for you so far. Barbara, go ahead.
So I understand your frustration with the random violence, but if you're going to write that, I think I read in the paper in some places where the police were like following people, and I don't know what the name of it is, but they kind of mug people that are actually leaving the demonstration. I read a letter by this man who's there with his daughter, and they like just attack people from behind as they're trying to go to the bus. So I think if you're going to write it, it really needs to include that random police violence as well. Not even just the tear gas and stuff, but the flashing of tires and stuff.
I agree, Barbara, and definitely I'm not trying to say that any side is without fault here at all. I think the police need to tone down the violence or stop the violence. There's all kinds of violence that is out there. But at the same time, I think the only way to have that actually happen is if both sides do it. And I don't know how to craft that yet, but I'll do my best to craft it along those lines, Barbara. Thank you.
Okay.
I think Barb wants to say something as well.
Okay, go ahead, Barb. Not hearing from her.
Sorry, my sound engineer wasn't ready. What I was gonna say is, yeah, I think it's really nice that it should go both ways. And I don't know if this belongs in that letter, but it's not just what's going on downtown or wherever the rioters are. The Portland police can't come out and take calls, not just from people that are like, my truck was stolen, but when there's any kind of violence, the ambulance and fire won't roll in until it's cleared by police. So there's like a trickle down effect too, between mentally wearing on the police, but also just having it affect not just the rioters, if that makes sense.
But the other responders, the other public responders.
So it's in the public's best interest, I guess, is what I'm saying. Okay, that was it.
All right, thanks, Barb.
Thanks, Vadim.
We also have two more hands up. I see Leah and Susan. Suzanne. I don't know if those are still up from last time or if they're up right now, but I'm hoping to actually, go ahead. Oops. Someone was about to speak. Susan, was that you?
Yes, it was.
Cool. Yeah, let's take these two last comments and then
Okay.
Go ahead.
My comment is, I don't think this is PCCEP's role to condemn violence, because your role is to take feedback from the community and try to coordinate it with PPB to get that connection improved. And, it's like you're going back to your community and saying, shame on you. I don't think that's your role.
And Susan, I understand where you're coming from. The PCCEP mission is to provide a voice for the community, to hear them and to inform the police bureau about that. But at the same time, the community members are also the people that that guy that was kicked in the head, that's a community member. Say what you will about the guy that got shot, that is a community member. And there's other ones, the people that the lady that was shoved when she was trying to put out a fire, that's a community member.
I'm not talking about the fact that it's not a community member. It's what your role is to make that statement. Clearly, violence is bad everywhere. That's not the point. The point is you're saying PCCEP is going to make an opinion, make a statement.
And it's about a statement about what's happening between the police and the community. Let me read the mission statement. The mission statement of Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing is to work with the mayor, police commissioner, Portland Police Bureau, and Portland's diverse constituencies to solicit and exchange information between the community and Portland Police Bureau to achieve the desired outcomes of equitable policing, which exceeds constitutional requirements, and meaningful community engagement with and trust in the PPB. It goes both ways, I think. One of the things is certainly whenever the community is upset with what PPB is doing in any sort of way, whether it's small, policies such as ticketing or jaywalking or anything like that, but also the big things as we're dealing with nowadays. But also it's that trust between community members and PPB. And I don't know how to get that trust unless the violence is toned down all around. I think definitely we've spoken up against the police bureau and the violence that they've used, but how to tone that violence down so we can build upon some sort of trust. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I don't disagree with you at all. That I'm just saying that's where I'm coming from. Thank you, Susan, for your input about that.
All right, let's go with Leah. Yeah, Leah for the last one.
I was seeing that possibly PCCEP could be seen as a leader for the protesters. When I was thinking back to the civil rights movement and the passing of John Lewis, there was very strong leaders that were constantly refocusing the protesters back to peaceful, nonviolent protest. And I think it was both to keep their head straight, but also to to not dilute the message, that they were trying to keep their message focused. So I see it as benefiting the protesters to help them to show leadership in that, to suggest nonviolent protest leadership to them. And I think just not supporting, it's a very dangerous thing to support violence in any way. And of course, we don't support the police violence, but it's a very dangerous line to come up against, to say that, in America, we have the right to trial, and to have violence in the streets is a very dangerous line. So I think to keep the protesters focused, trying to, I think that PCCEP could provide a nice leadership in that regard. So.
Thank you, Leah.
Okay, I think that's enough feedback for you to kind of craft what you need to get it going, and we'll see the full statement. Well, you'll post it before we get to the meeting, right? Like at least a week out.
Yeah, in the next couple of days, I'm sure I can draft something. It's going to be short and simple, but address everything that's been discussed today, I hope.
The only thing I'm just thinking about is there could be substantial, hey, let's add this paragraph in kind of a thing. And I think that might draw out the discussion at the actual meeting. So we might just want to suggest, here's my statement. I'd like to keep it as is, because I think there will be a lot of comments on adding, changing things. So just a thought.
I like that.
Theo, you look like you're about to say something. No?
No, I just appreciate the conversation. I think it's good.
Okay, cool. Cool. Next piece we got is PCCEP codification. So basically, for those of you less familiar with it, PCCEP currently exists within the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement is something that's set to expire possibly in January, February, possibly not. But the way I liken it to is basically we're playing a video game without saving the game. So if the game goes off, everything we just did is gone. And so the mayor has put in his 19-point police oversight or accountability plan to codify PCCEP into city code, which would make it permanent, so that all of our work that we've done over the years would be saved and that we would be a permanent fixture within Portland. And so we've been having conversations over the last few weeks about what does that process look like to get codified. I had sent out a list of recommendations for powers that PCCEP would have. And then we've kind of discussed through those a couple times. And so now we're looking at a timeline of passing a recommendation before the next election of PCCEP, which is in November, and also before the city elections, which will include a ballot initiative to overhaul the police accountability system. The ballot initiative would not impact PCCEP particularly, but it would shift the landscape around us of the IPR, which is the Independent Police Review, and the Citizen Review Committee. I think it's committee, or it could be commission or council, one of the C's. And so we want to have this enshrined before the elections happen. That way we don't have to deal with a possibility of a changing mayor, the possibility of once this ballot initiative passes or doesn't passes, and the energy that will be around. And then obviously the federal election, like all these things, right? And so we want to be able to have our process outside of what will be a very complicated situation. And so the plan, part of that plan included moving up our retreat. At last week's meeting, we talked about codification. We held a special meeting last Wednesday. And one of the things that we talked about there was using the retreat to hammer out some of the details of the codification, which includes PCCEP coming up with a mission, a scope of work, right? What does PCCEP want to focus on currently? And it could be more things, it could be less things. As we've talked with the mayor's office and one of their staff members, Nicole Grant, the field is open if there's things we want to change, add in, whatever it might be. So crafting out our mission statement, our scope of work, and any changes to the powers that we currently have. And the way it was explained to us last week is that codification can be a very simple process. It doesn't have to include things like bylaws. It basically is just whatever we put in there is what is mentioned in this codification. So all we would need to have, again, like I said, is our mission, our scope of work, and what powers or things would we want to have in it. So in speaking with Elliot just prior to this call, the process that we came up with was that we would use next week's retreat to hammer out PCCEP's ideas about this, post it publicly, and then have it voted on at our September meeting, and then pass it along to the mayor after that so that it could be codified sometime in October. So that's the tentative plan. Retreat, which would be PCCEP's time to privately discuss about it, bringing it before the public and allowing them to digest it in the lead up to the meeting, and then having a final document ready to go and voted on by the 22nd. So I want to open it up to PCCEP member comment on what they feel about this, and if there's any questions, suggestions, things that we would like to put in there. It looks like Ann has something to add in there.
Me?
Sorry, I saw you were unmuted. Was that?
Sorry. Yeah, I agree with your plan. It sounds good.
Other
Yeah.
PCEP comment? Yeah, we didn't-
I agree with that plan as well. I think during the retreat we can hammer a lot of things out, and I think the sooner the better with respect to this. If kind of my take on it is that we're seeking incremental change to what we're already doing. Once we kind of start that ball rolling, I think we'll definitely be able to get some sort of consensus with the city attorneys by November.
Voted on by the council for the city.
Oh,
Amy, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Okay, I just went back over your plan, and I just want to let you know that folks receiving disability can't earn that much money. I know you wanted everyone to get $500, a month, but you got to be realistic if you want the public to be engaged who are poor, because they can't earn over like $50 a month for some people. So just keep that in mind. 500, yeah, it sounds great, but you know what? It'll kill a lot of us on disability to earn that much extra. So I wanted to put that out there. The other thing is, I really think we need to craft a vision statement and a mission statement based off the PC plan and the bylaws, so we can stay consistent if we want to just expand. Because your recommendations are awesome in many ways, but it's not what we were told to do. And so I just want to get focused more on that. Told to create a mission statement, a value statement, kind of let them know what PCEP's going to do in the future. And I don't think your recommendations fit into that particular subject matter at this time. I think that would be an after codification request rather than let's get codified as close to where we are now and then make the adjustments after we get codified.
I missed that whole last part. Sorry, my call dropped.
No, that's okay. I'm saying that if we leave your recommendations for after codification, we can kind of write them into our, I call it the Jason plan or the AMC plan, because a lot of what they've got in there, you could actually add and it would beef up both documents to combine your recommendations and the metrics recommendations together. We'd have a powerful statement. But I think we need to do that in parallel with creating a good mission statement and vision statement for the lawyers, because you said that's all they needed.
Yeah, anything that we put in is all that we'll put in there. I think metrics would not be codified. Those would be something that would change over time. And just an important point on that too, once codification happens, it's not something that it's really hard to undo. So the suggestion was to keep it light and to keep things like metrics or other pieces like that either to outside documents, either bylaws or other things like that. But I don't even think you would want to put those kind of metrics in bylaws. I think
you missed what I said. What I said was get the value statement and the mission statement done first. Take your recommendations and blend them with a metrics document later, not now. Because what you're asking for, a lot of it's not possible, and it sounds pretty brazen to ask for before getting codified. So if you want to keep it simple, keep the recommendations till later. And let's write out a good mission and vision statement.
I think that's something we can discuss in the retreat. And I think it might be helpful too to talk with the city to see what would make sense to put in there, because I can't actually speak to that.
Oh, okay.
Oops, Theo, I think you said something. I don't know. My internet's going a little slow right now too, yo.
That's all good. I'll wait for after PCEP comment.
Okay. Any other PCEP comment before we open it up to public discussion? I will work on crafting some of this stuff and getting the materials ready for the discussion on Tuesday, and then we can kind of take it from there once we have a discussion on Tuesday and getting some documents up to the public on that. But let's open up to public comment. Any questions, comments on codifying PCCEP, the timeline we presented, things you think should be in there. Yeah. Let's see.
Susan has her hand up.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I was just putting my participants in. Go ahead, Susan. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to make a comment about Mayor Wheeler's 19-point plan. It seems like there's 2 points where you guys are involved, and one of them makes sense and one of them I'm confused about, and it's call for community-led review and re-envisioning of core patrol services. So I just wanted to bring it up because the mayor thinks you're going to be doing that, and it sounds way different from things that you've done in the past.
I would agree. And honestly, I don't know much about it, and we have not spoke with the mayor about it at all ourselves. So that's one of the things that's going to be up on the in our discussion next week. Mary Claire from the Police Bureau is on the line with us. Mary Claire, do you have anything to add of what Core Patrols is, what that would involve, or Theo, if you know anything about what was added to that, or anybody on the call for that matter?
Yeah, I certainly won't speak for Mary Claire because Mary Claire's incredible, but I believe it would just be soliciting information about the community, community input on corporate mistaken. And I think, and I apologize, my internet's going in and out because of the wind, so I might be breaking up. You're all frozen right now, so I don't know how much of that you heard, but the community is what I believe is bound to be elevated. And just while I'm talking, I had a couple of other points real quick that I just wanted to touch on. For the agenda for the retreat, I do have to make a presentation to you all as PCCEP members, but we
You cut out.
I'm trying to figure out if that's me too, cutting out.
I don't know. It's like you
the whole
froze.
retreat can't be about just, I'll just stop.
Or you can either drop in the chat, but I think what I got out of that was the whole retreat can't be just about codification. It's got to also include a presentation you have and maybe some other pieces that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, presentation for me, and I wanted to, just from an email exchange that I was having earlier today, I think it's really important that PCCEP push for you all to choose your own members, or at least have a much larger presence at the table, because you know your community better than anybody else in the city, in the mayor's office, anywhere. And as PCCEP staff are community members, but we only see things through one set of eyes. So I think that's a really important point to push forward. But I'll stop now.
Thanks, Theo. Mary Claire, anything you wanted to add about the core patrol services from which you're familiar with about it?
Sorry about that, Lucky. Can you, I missed because you cut out too. Can you repeat what your question was?
Yeah, the mayor had put on his 19-point action plan that PCCEP would have a role in redesigning the core patrol services for PPB.
Okay. Yeah. We haven't had a discussion with the mayor about that particular, but I think it's more about, the discussion that I think we're all looking forward to in terms of what the role of the police should be in the future. What is it the community wants the Bureau, what functions do you want the Bureau to perform versus the ones they do now? For example, responding to mental health calls is what first comes to my mind because, we're obviously looking at that street response to take away some of the calls or, looking at should somebody else be, doing homeless cleanups or whatever. So I think it's more about just getting, ultimately getting PCCEP and the community's ideas about what role you want the police bureau or members to play in conducting public safety functions in the city.
That makes sense. Susan, does that answer your question or give you some more context for it?
Yes, it answers a question. I still am not sure that makes sense, but we're still early. So it sounds like no one's really talked about it. So that's good enough for now.
Yeah, we'll give you an update with our mayoral meeting report back on the 22nd. So we'll have some more information.
Cool.
Anne?
I also just wanted to jump in quickly. Part of what Mary Claire is talking about kind of reminded me about the Truth and Reconciliation that we're working on involves some of those things, re-envisioning what the police will look like. That's part of it. So that might be a place. Our meeting is tomorrow at 4:30.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other public comment on the codification process? Okay, we're going to keep it moving. I'm really excited about that. So I'll connect with Theo. If other people have questions, you can feel free to email about it. Let me put, okay, so we have to next talk about our meeting. Why can I not find, so meeting on the 22nd. What I have on the agenda so far is Vadim's statement, the codification final recommendation, and then the final metrics document. The metrics document was a set of standards or things that the Amici groups, which are the Friends of the Court, the Albino Ministerial Alliance Coalition, and the Mental Health Alliance, they came up with a document full of metrics that they feel PCEP should attain. PCEP's taken a look at that, and some of the members of this group, I'm not exactly sure who, I think it was Amy and Elliot and maybe some others, and maybe, and reviewed those metrics and are going to present what we feel is actually possible for us to complete. So we are putting that on the agenda as well. I know Elliot did have a question as far as how that document's coming along. So I don't know if you all want to speak to that.
I know he's compiling that information, but he also said that Amy and Barb were also going to be adding some information to that. So I would imagine he would be in contact with them.
I thought Marie Claire was going to add something to it also. They have the document already, right?
Luckiana, what Barb and I had done is we've taken all the information and we've gone through it and we've kind of separated out. What?
Go ahead, Amy. I think.
I think you and Mary Claire are trying to.
No, I think it might be you cutting in and out. Go ahead, finish up, Amy. I think Theo was thinking you were cutting out.
Yeah, Barb and I were reading the document, and there's a lot of things in there that are what I consider operational things, and a lot of things in there that are aspirational things that we've either accomplished or are accomplishing. And I didn't want to go through 3 pages of documents and copy and paste the info all over again, but I can definitely go through which ones I think belong in which category. Because some are strictly what the city's supposed to do, and some are strictly what we're supposed to do, and they're all mixed in the document.
Amy, have you been in contact with Elliot about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I already told him.
Yeah. So then.
Yeah. But he thinks that I'm going to rewrite a new document. And I said, no, let's talk about the lines in the document that belong on which half of the book. Okay, some belong to the city's responsibility and some belong to PCEP's responsibility. And they're all mixed in that one document.
Yeah, so let's have you all take that and, figure out offline what needs to be done so that PCEP can have a final document to look over, and then just be also aware that whatever y'all decide, PCCEP will also have some feedback on too. So just keeping that in mind. But so that's going to be on the agenda: codification, metrics, the statement from Vadim. We also have to vote for PCCEP members, some new PCCEP members. So that also has to be in there as well. And it would be great to get some bios on them beforehand, and also maybe even some data on who's been attending meetings. I know a lot of them have really been participating a lot, and I think that's important to consider. I know in the past, we have come to impasses on voting for people for PCCEP. It was like a tie, at least at one point, and one of the persons had been to like 3 meetings and the other person hadn't been to 0, and somehow PCCEP still tied on who should be placed on the committee. And in a committee where we do have turnover based off of people just living their lives, I think it's important to prioritize folks that have already been participating. Yeah, and I'm also just a strong proponent of PCCEP not coming to ties, because then it just leaves it to the mayor, and it's like, why would we leave it to the mayor when we want to have, we want to be deciding things? Like, why would get us the information that we need so we can make logical votes. I'm also a fan
Lakiana, actually.
I'm also a fan of voting only for people who are present at the meeting. I remember in the past we voted on people who weren't actually there. I don't think that's happened recently, but those are just some of the things that are important as we make these decisions.
If you're worried about a tie, typically in a Robert Rules of Order, the chairs do not vote except in a tie. So
yeah, we're not in a
if you want to change how you vote, so then you're setting yourself up for not having a way to break a tie.
That's something we should look at in the future. How do we break it?
We already have experience with that, though.
Yeah, what do we do?
The mayor.
The mayor does. Yeah, exactly. But we don't want to do that.
That was me. Remember?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And again,
No, I did. Yeah, I got it now. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, there was just pieces of that were complicated, and that should be something that PCCEP can figure out, like who to place on the committee, especially because the mayor, and as I said this before, the mayor doesn't actually know any of the stuff that's been going on, right? So it's not like he's sitting in a meeting like, oh yeah, I remember so-and-so was at this meeting. Like he's just picking basically blindly that he selected like 6 months ago. So it's not, we know, and we should be able to make that decision. Is there anything else we want to add to the meeting? It's obviously very packed as it is. Okay, let's open it up to public comment. Let me get my participants so I can see if there's hands raised. Go ahead, Susan.
This is Susan Cotter. I would like to propose that you talk about your experience with PPB as it relates to the ballot measure 26-217 Police Oversight Board Charter Amendment. I think a lot of the public is getting to the point where no changes can happen under the current system. And so this is a big component of it. And I think a component of making sure we have better oversight in the future. And I think your experience as a group related to the aspect of oversight would be really important information for the community.
I agree. I think with this meeting being as packed as it is, I'm wondering if you think we can move that to an October meeting, which will be right before that ballot initiative goes up, or if you think that's too late. I don't know when that is. That's the last. Okay, so let me just pull this up.
I think that's perfect. October is great.
Okay, cool. Because my other suggestion was then, like, if it's too close to the election, so that would be, we would be looking at the 26th, and you'd have that the 27th of October, and the following Wednesday would be the vote.
Well, that's pretty late. I'm kind of I mean, we're really at a point where we have to have charter amendments, and I was kind of hoping that you guys figure out a way to do that.
We also do a special session on it. Although, yeah, a special session. So we could, our meeting's on the 27th. We could do something mid-October, maybe in conjunction with some of the other communities that are impacted by it. I start to wonder if PCEP should take, additional time out of our thing to host this. While I do think it's important, but also open to other people's comments. But I think that is an important thing. I think it would fit best at our October meeting, but I'm also cognizant that it is just a week before the election. So, yeah. Don't know if other PCEP members.
Throw it out and you guys can decide what you could do.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Any PCEP comment on that or thoughts on how we want to engage in public information about the upcoming ballot initiative?
I think it would be, I'm wondering if we could, have the discussion in one of the subcommittee meetings, but probably not. Yeah.
We could. It's an idea, but they would have to move their agenda off to host.
I'm just thinking that would be earlier.
Did you get a chance to go through that document yet? Oh, it's okay. I'll be quiet.
Let's go to Barb, and we'll come back to that, Susan. But I really appreciate that. We'll think. Maybe I'll send something in the email out or something like that. I know Elliot would be all about that. Barb, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, this is regular public comment at the end of the meeting, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
No, in regards to our agenda.
Even though I'm twice your age.
Yep,
so, I have several things to just bring up and ask about. Number one, I don't know if you guys have heard the mayor talk lately, but I have, and he doesn't do a good job of marketing PCEP, Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing. He actually, in his last long weekend news conference, didn't mention you guys at all. I think there's another place that you guys could find some camaraderie and information, just sort of in general. I know some of you might know about it. LIPSIC, the Local Public Safety Coordinating Council.
You did a
and I know. And they have an executive meeting, I don't know, every month, every other month, I can't remember.
It's coming up.
No, that's the mental health one. Why are you doing this to me? I feel like Patty and Ryan. Okay, so, and the final thing I wanted to ask about is sort of along what Susan was asking about, kind of, sort of. Portland Street Response. What the heck is going on with that? Is there, Theo, is there a way we can find that out? You can find that out. You can have a presentation or something done in that way, to know what the heck is going on. Because if not, I'm gonna start doing it myself.
I think that's a great idea, Barb. It could be part of our reimagining core services, as that, I think that's exactly what Mayor Wheeler sort of envisioned with the public feedback on that, understanding how that transition from our police officers addressing mental health crises to someone else and what all that would involve. So maybe we can have a presentation from the police bureau, and I think the fire bureau also has some work that they've done in the past with coordinating these sort of things, like what they're envisioning, what kind of policy things are going to be created around that.
That's a good point, Winnie. And excellent point, Barb.
And in the next, our next meeting, is the PPB going to talk about the recommendations, our recommendations, and where they are in the process? Are we going to bring that piece back?
I thought that was always supposed to be on the agenda.
It hasn't felt like it's been there, but I think it's supposed to be.
Maybe we could bring that back, and then if there is extra time, we could ask about the status of Portland Street response.
Claudia, can you make sure that gets
Portland Street response here?
And I mean, just for my information, can somebody tell me, is there an outstanding recommendation right now?
I can't think of one. I know that.
I don't think so. That's why
Well,
I want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Well, no, there. So we
Gotta
have
make sure
the
you
one
have
that
in the same book.
we have
Theo?
the. Hang on.
Theo?
We have the. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, it just told me my internet connection's unstable, so
yeah, it is.
apologies again if it breaks up. Oh man.
Theo, you can also call me Theo.
Okay.
Claudia?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, go ahead.
So some of the mayors.
Go ahead, Theo. You're breaking up, but you're on right now.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call again.
Hey. Hey, sorry about that. Can you guys hear Theo through this? Speak, Theo. I don't. I was just gonna say that. No, they can't hear you. I think you should call in. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Yeah.
I was just going to say that some are just strictly through the mayor, and some are from PPP, and I believe PPP is caught up, but I'll double check after this meeting. But some are just through the mayor.
So some are through PPP and some are through the mayor, and he believes the ones at PPP are all caught up.
Yeah, that's my recollection as well. So if you think you're missing something, I need to know that. But I don't think you've had any since, for a while, directed at specifically to the Bureau.
He's taken a step back, I believe, so I'll connect with him and Nicole Grant to see if we can have them give a presentation.
And he was saying Robert King used to give updates from the mayor's office, but hasn't lately. He was going to connect with them to do that. What I was going to also suggest is Claudia, if you can write it into the agenda so that we can, so that I'm remembering it and everybody else is kind of seeing it like, oh yeah, let's make sure to get that on there. The other thing I was going to say is we have a recommendation on the procedural justice one. So some recommendations, like, okay, for example, the procedural justice recommendation was passed. Y'all came back and said, yep, we have accepted it, but there's a process for it to go on. And so now it's like, where is it in that? Like that, those are also updates we need. And I'm sure there's other recommendations that are maybe were either passed or done, and like something was happened, but it's like it's not a new whatever you're calling it.
Gotcha.
So
On an update on the status of the procedural justice policy, for example.
Yes. And I think
yes. Okay. That's fair.
Deem as secretary, I think it's very helpful. And as we think about roles in PCCEP and as we move forward and try to think about this, I think it'll be helpful for the secretary role to help track and figure out where recommendations are. I know there's a list going to be made about all the recommendations and where they are. So, because right now it feels.
That will be presented to you all at the retreat.
Okay.
So that's my presentation.
And Theo's saying it's going to be presented to us at the retreat. That's part of his presentation, along with yeah. Okay. So that sounds good on that.
And Lakiana, can I just ask you on your agenda to it wasn't listed on the agenda the last time, the updates from the Bureau, and then somebody at the very end, and Jamie had just signed off. So if we could have it, originally you had it at the beginning after the subcommittee, because I can't promise you sometimes that the AC can, I mean, there's so much going on that sometimes they get, called away in the evenings. So if we could just have it at the outset, that would be very much appreciated.
Yep. I think that'll help everybody if it's written in there, just to remind it right after the subcommittee reports. Go ahead, Claudia.
I was going to say that the youth subcommittee also would like to be on the agenda to present the recommendation. The recommendation will be on police identification. So they would like some time on the agenda to present their recommendation.
How much time do we have? We have an hour and a half.
Yeah, the meetings go from 5:30 to 7:30.
So we have codification,
We have 2 hours.
Do we have 2 hours? We have metrics. We have Vadim's statement. We also have this youth subcommittee. And then we also have reports. So reports is about 20 minutes. New members is about, let's say, 5. Codification will need at least 30. Metrics will need at least, what, 20?
It's raining?
I don't know.
Let's just say everything that you do will need at least 20 to 30. So we have a deemed statement,
Another
we need
hour.
20 to 30. And then we have this youth subcommittee, which would be about another 20 to 30 minutes. So we're
We
looking
need
at
another hour.
Yeah, we're over.
We'll take
So
out
it's-
youth
yeah, so we're either gonna have to.
report because they're gonna take out the youth. So
We either have to. So the things that have to be in the.
Luciana, let's cut the subcommittee reports, especially if people are doing recommendations like the youth report. They're doing a recommendation, right? So would they necessarily need to report under that category as well? Or move us at the bottom in case we run out of time?
So, okay.
Where are we?
Yeah, move the subcommittee reports to the.
Where are we at time right now with what we have? How much time do we need?
If we did the.
We need another hour.
If we did codification, metrics, Vadim's statement, and the youth subcommittee, that would be 2 hours if we gave every one of them 30 minutes. Which would be very tight. And that still doesn't include introductions or the new member voting or the police reports. So my suggestion is one of these is going to have to come off.
Elliot's not here. Let's take his off.
It's either going to be, I would suggest I think codification and metrics are very important. I think we either have to look at this Vadim statement or the youth subcommittee one. I would lean towards the youth subcommittee one maybe, but I don't want to also undervalue what they're doing. So just, but I also know the statement's going to be more time sensitive.
Well, isn't the youth, I think that we should leave the youth subcommittee statement because they're going back to school and they're going to be off PCCEP, right? I think that's important. Why don't we cut something else off? I think it's important to keep the check-in with the PPB, and maybe we could, in the efforts of time, not have check-ins on the subcommittees. I don't know.
No, that's not what we said.
Without that though,
we still don't have enough time.
We're just really tight.
We wouldn't have time for public comment on each subject matter, and we've got to do that. You can't breeze through all this stuff and not have people want to chat.
The voice of Judith.
The public is going to want to talk about stuff. And you can't cut them off. So we got to either add another hour or cut out something big.
Okay, thank you.
I would suggest we're looking at either the metrics statement. I don't know how movable y'all feel that is, or the or Vadim statement. I know that's also time sensitive, or we could add maybe not an hour, but like a half hour.
What about moving the metrics to the next month? Is that time sensitive?
Yes. No.
The protests have been
I think
happening
that's
for 100
genius.
days. How can Vadim's statement be time sensitive?
Because someone was shot recently. We don't want that happening again, maybe.
And the Matrix,
I think
your note is going to really make the difference.
10 minutes. Well, we'll disagree, Susan, but thank you. Even 10 minutes for my statement, maybe, and I don't want to say it's my statement, but if we're going to do it without having people submit edits to it, then maybe that'd be enough.
We got
Okay, I think that's a suggestion we can pick off the metric.
Lakiana. We got to have time to talk about it.
Oh, no.
Yep, so let's take off metrics.
Oh, Lakiana, can I just ask you to think twice about that? The city attorney thought that was on last month, and she did ask me the other day because AMAC is waiting for your response, and that meeting was, several months ago. So if there's any way for you to get that.
So then my other suggestion is to add an hour to PCEP's meeting.
Yeah, that was my other idea.
Offered to do halftime entertainment to just keep everybody engaged. So
We could take a break. I agree. I think we should.
cool.
I forgot about the AMAC thing.
So we will add an hour to the meeting. So it'll go from, can we start early then and start at 5 to 8? So we're not on Zoom from 5:30 to 8:30. I like all of y'all, but I think in the interest of sanity of everybody involved.
I don't know. I'm wondering if Marcia and Yolanda could be there at 5 or other people on the team. I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah, for the people who are at this meeting right now, who can make 5?
I can.
Amy, can you make 5?
Say that again. Sorry.
Can you make 5 o'clock if we moved our meeting up to 5 p.m.?
Yeah. On what day? What day is it?
It's on the 22nd, so it'll be Tuesday, September 22nd at 5 p.m.
Yeah, I reserve Tuesdays for this group. Yes, I can meet at 5. Yes.
So we're going to do that. We'll be.
But the youth subcommittee meets before us, right?
They met already today.
No, for next month you said. Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
an hour, we're good, right, with everything we have?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So we would, it'll still be a little tight, but everybody would have at least a half hour for all of their things. So we could, we'll do still our brief introductions. If there's any pressing things that subcommittees have to announce, we'll give them a chance to make one announcement or something of that nature. But if it's just, hey, here's what we did, then what we'll do is we'll say, oh, this is exactly what we'll do. We'll say, hey, subcommittee met on this date. Here's our report. And then Claudia or Theo, you can just drop the notes for it in there. And then people who are interested in reading what the heck happened can look at that. And then if there's something really pressing, like we did whatever, we will need time to report back on the mayor though as well. That's something that will need to be shared out from the steering committee.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and send out the new times for the calendar invite for the 22nd to PCEP, so folks are aware that it will now be from 5 to 8.
Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Appreciate that. So on the agenda is steering committee report back on the mayor. The reports from PPB and the mayor's office on recommendations. New member voting, which we will determine if we're still absent a few members, like if we get a bunch of feedback, like, hey, I can't be there until 5:30, then we'll hold that off to maybe like 6:30 or something like that. But right now it'll be at the beginning. We'll do codification, then we'll do the metrics, then we'll do the statement on violence in the community. Let's call it that. And then we'll do the youth subcommittee recommendation and a break somewhere in there. Cool. Okay. With that, I think that's the meeting for today. just to kind of review what we did, we discussed a public forum, which the PCCEP steering committee voted against at this time. Vadim introduced a statement on the violence in the community, which he's going to craft and present at our next meeting. We also talked about the mayor's meeting next Monday and decided that it would be open. No, excuse me. It would be open to all PCCEP members, and Jared would be allowed to sit in as well. And we'll do a report back to the community at our September meeting. Then we talked about codification process and decided it'll be presented at our September meeting as well, with discussion privately amongst PCCEP next Tuesday at a retreat. And then we crafted our agenda, which we just went over, which will feature youth subcommittee recommendation, violence statement, metrics, codification, new member vote, and updates from the community. And with that,
did you see what Theo just put?
I did
September
not.
29th, PPB budget listening session hosted by PCCEP. If PCCEP agrees, could be an announcement.
Who asked for us to do this?
Theo,
The mayor's office.
mayor's office.
When do we have to have a decision on this by?
The sooner the better. The dates are already there, but it's you.
Oh, yeah, we should do it.
The
We should
community's been
definitely.
asking about it for a long time, so I think it's smart to do it. If PCCEP was to do a listening session, this would be the listening session to do. It would be 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And tentatively,
Sounds
Vadim
good.
asked me about this earlier, but tentatively, all the commissioners will be there. They haven't gotten back to me about Vadim's concern about quorum. But they
That's not
said
my
they don't-
concern.
Oh, okay.
Born.
They haven't gotten back to me about some random folks' concern about quorum.
And I don't know where the quorum came from, but I don't think for city council or a quorum is a big deal with respect to talking about this kind of stuff, if that's what is being referred to. But I think it'd be great if all of city council wants to have this thing and we can host it. I'm totally behind it.
That's what Amanda from the mayor's office told me today.
And it's still
Okay.
early in the whole budget cycle, so this could really affect things, down the road.
I'll tell her y'all are down then.
And
Yeah,
this
and
is
you
for
should
what budget year? What budget years? 22, 23?
Right. So July starts the new budget cycle for the next year. So yeah, 21 to 22. Is that right?
No, I thought that budget has already been created.
22, 23, you're right.
It would be 20.
Yeah, 22, 23. Okay. Just want to be clear with everyone.
Okay, thanks for that, Theo.
Thanks, everybody. Are we?
Yeah, we're done. Appreciate y'all staying 9 extra minutes. Appreciate all the community members who offered their input, for the staff, for Mary Claire for being here, for Jared. Appreciate all y'all.
Yeah, same here. Appreciate everybody.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Thank you
everyone.
much, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you all, and as always, thank you, Theo.
Thank you, Claudia, very much.
And end this meeting for all and stop the recording. Everyone have a good night.